Hi, this is Laptop Radio. The topic for today is fraud on the blockchain. And we have Karen here. Hello, Karen.
Hi, how are you guys? How are you?
I'm good. Karen, you're the CEO and founder of BlockchainIntel. Can you tell us what your story is?
Sure. So I've been working in technology for a long time and recently have been working in the blockchain space. Now, previously I worked in financial services, so I understood there was a lot of work that could be done and could be improved, right, since the financial crisis happened. But it was because I was working in the blockchain space that I saw the potential of the blockchain in terms of disrupting and really saving a lot of money to a lot of businesses. And it's been reported that that could be in the billions to trillions of dollars. Now, I've been focused primarily in one particular vertical, financial services, and that's because when I was working at my last blockchain company, we were helping a payment services company go live. And this payment services company was just before it went live, was slapped with this massive lawsuit. And this lawsuit had to do with money laundering and sex trafficking and all sorts of things that just completely floored me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, I really believe in blockchain technology and the fact that it can help so many industries and help so many people. But the last thing I want to be a part of and do is help a company that's involved in bad things. And so that's where I got the drive and the idea to focus on this area of finding the bad guys, number one, and identifying the good guys.
Let's talk a little bit about the basic terms. So, what is considered bad and what is good?
Yeah, so okay. So bad would be anybody who is connected to a scam or a fraud, a dark net, buying goods on the dark net. So I'll talk about some scams. And these are ones that we've been involved in recently because just by word of mouth, people have found us and asked us to help them.
Mhm.
Um, so some of these scams include impersonation. So um, people will impersonate other people on, say, Discord. And what they'll do is they'll impersonate, and this has happened a lot on Twitter too, right? They'll impersonate people, well-known people on Twitter, Discord, some kind of application, and then pretend to help them, but only in the end scam them and get them to uh, turn over funds to them. They'll also have fake wallets or sites where supposedly they're um, creating an online wallet for people to use to store their digital funds.
Mhm.
But in fact, it's not a real wallet. It's a fake wallet. And then all the funds eventually just go to the thief, the hacker, the bad person. And then there are other kinds of scams where wallets will have new releases, right? Every wallet will say, okay, this is release 10 of this wallet. But what will happen is hackers will come in and pretend to be a new release. And then people who are unsuspecting will click on that link, download, which is what is a malware file, and then again, get their funds stolen. So people are thinking they're downloading a new release, but they're actually downloading malware. So yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of tricks that people do to get funds, and some people, aren't as say savvy on the blockchain yet, so they trust people to help them. Um, and they're often well-known people that they think are helping them, but in actuality, they're people who are pretending to be well-known people or helpful people.
So yeah, I think recently, I mean yesterday actually, someone was pretending to be me on Telegram, and it was very annoying because that person kept saying "Hello, user." um,
Yeah.
so so I guess these are the bad guys, and are there like good guys or?
Yes, there are good guys. So bad guys include, all the scammers that I talked about, ransomware, um, and bad exchanges. Now, there are good guys. There are exchanges that are good. That these exchanges have um, good or strong anti-money laundering policies and
Mhm.
programs. They have KYC or know your customer. So basically, they're filtering out or identifying people who are trying to be malicious on their exchange.
So KYC stands for Know Your Customer, and
Yes,
AML is anti-money laundering.
yes.
And why are those? Why are those important?
Well, so we'll start with money. KYC is important because they can validate that you are who you say you are and that you aren't tied to any kind of illegal activity. Um, Transaction monitoring is part of anti-money laundering, or anti-money laundering programs are important because even though you may go through KYC, there are ways to still do bad things, or you may do bad things after you go through the KYC process. So the AML and the transaction monitoring is designed to catch, the bad things as they are happening. So as you're doing transactions, you're able to see whether or not, so an exchange, a company is able to see whether or not there are bad actors doing bad things. Meaning, okay, like we'll take an example, like an ATM. Like let's say you want to put in $100 into a Bitcoin ATM, and the ATM address that you're using, if you are a bad guy, right, is linked to all sorts of terrible things. So then the ATM operator can see that and say, hey, this is not good. Somebody's trying to put money in or exchange money that is not a good person, is linked to bad activities, and they can report that person. And that's really important because, for example, in some of the cases that we're working on, because we're able to report and work with law enforcement
Mhm.
on these bad activities, we're able to help stop the flow of funds. So I'll give you an example. There was a family that had a lot of money stolen from them, like in the millions of dollars. And we started working with them, identifying who was trying to steal this money from them, or who had actually stolen the money for them. And through our work, these people, the thieves, apparently got notified. And while they stole some portion of the money, they stopped doing anything with the rest of the funds. So while, some millions had been stolen, some millions had not been, had basically not been, had not been moved. So if, um, so the idea is then in this investigation, we're able to stop, the blood from flowing, and um, and then, identify who the criminals are and then get back those funds. So that's the idea of how you can, using our services, or anyone like us, right, stop this criminal activity from happening.
Sounds awesome. I mean, it's almost like Ghostbusters. Um,
Yeah, I like to think of it that way, but I'm not sure if that's yeah.
yeah, it's like Scam Busters. Well,
Yes, exactly. We're
pretty
just,
awesome.
yeah.
So, what are some of the red flags? Like, how do you identify, like how do you know if someone is scammy or a project is scammy or if a wallet is scammy?
Yeah. Okay. So there are definitely a number of red flags. Um, One thing is if um, there's the transaction. So what we do is we show where the location of the transactions occur.
Mhm.
And if these transactions are occurring all over the world and in some what we call OFAC sanctioned
Mhm.
or what the U.S. government calls OFAC sanctioned countries, meaning countries we should not be doing business with, like Russia, um, and the obvious ones like North Korea and Iran, right? If that shows up, then it's something that you should be watching out for. And it's something that we started to notice too, because in a lot of the scams that we were tracking 6 months ago to a year ago had Russian addresses in them.
Oh
And then
wow.
recently, the US, just early August, the US just raised, or added another sanction for Russia specifically. And so you can tell just by the location of transactions. Now, not everyone may do that, may want to show where their transactions are coming from. So if it's completely hidden, that's another sort of warning or red flag. Um, Now, in terms of other things that you want to look out for, there are things called mixed transactions. Now, some people will use mixed transactions just to increase their privacy, and it's like you not wanting your neighbor to know what transactions you're doing, and that's totally fine. Um, but there are some transactions that are mixed purposely, and there have been a number of mixers that have been shut down because the people who are mixing funds are criminals, and the services that they're purchasing or the goods that they're purchasing are linked to all sorts of criminal activity. Uh, so it's knowing um, what's going on. I'm sorry, who is sending you the funds, or
Mhm.
who you're sending funds to. Now, there are other behaviors, and you mentioned one of them, right? So there's a lot of people who impersonate others.
Yep.
So if there's some kind of weird, uh, you know, behavior, like you're saying, "Hello, user," or someone starts to have a, funny um, sort of rhetoric or sort of pattern of speech that they don't normally use. That's also something to watch out for. Now, I know it's when we're talking about pattern of speech, it's like we're writing or typing this out, so it's like a lot of times online it's just by checking whether their grammar makes sense, or if they're foreign, or just
But
sort
there
of.
can be sophisticated ones as well. I mean, I think the hello user is like super obvious because I don't say hey. I mean, I don't say hello user. However, I think it could get more sophisticated later.
Oh yeah, yeah. So like for the Discord example that I was talking about, this impersonator used the same picture,
Mhm.
and and you could tell that they were different. He was different than the real one because the hashtag was different. Now Discord allows you to do that through this feature. They have this Nitro account that you can set
Mhm.
up, and so that's where you have to look a little harder, um, and you'll see that in the name there's a character, there's one character that's different, or
Mhm.
the hashtag is different, something like that. Well, you just have to be careful.
Yeah, and I just want to mention that I think on Telegram they sometimes like the one who impersonated me yesterday didn't have a username. But something to really watch out for is the I and the L's on Telegram. I think sometimes if you have an I, they can easily have an L.
Right.
And I mean, for mine, they would basically have the L right in the middle of it. But always check the username. And I think someone ping me and say, "Hey, do you contact me?" And I'm like, "No." And so always like verified with
Yes.
the real person if possible.
Yeah.
Because then I asked this person who contacted me to send me the screenshot as well as the profile information of the impersonator so that I would know what they did.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's really good. And report it, because like I'm working with law enforcement right now, and they want to see the malware, because they want to find out who this person is and bust the whole ring or bust the whole operation.
Oh, cool.
So if you send pictures of what's been faked to law enforcement, they can open up a case. And um, and I'm happy to help facilitate that process too, because I think this is really important, to make them, send a message to the bad guys that, look, you can't get away with this. We're going to find you and eventually, and, you're going to have to pay for it in some way.
So you're saying that even if someone is pretending to be us, we should report it to the law officials. Um,
Yes, I think so, because they have a database of all these different things, and it may be, in some cases it's just one or two people that they've hit, but in a lot of cases, this is done repeatedly to a bunch of people.
yeah, they hit like at least more than 4 people for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a lot. So that person who pinged me, and then there were there were a couple other people from different groups who actually. At first, they thought when I warned the community, some of the communities, they thought I was joking. However, then the fake person contacted them, and then they said "Hello, user," and I was just cracking up. But I mean, they religiously pinged a number of people on Telegram.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's
Yeah.
bad, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I think that happened to me too. Someone pinged me on Telegram, but then within a minute or a few seconds, they asked me to send them funds through a Bitcoin address.
Yeah, they were asking if people want to buy tokens.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was just thinking about this. Since we're talking about this right now and it's happening right now, I mean, I'm happy to set up some kind of um, repository where you can send me information, or you can send us at Blockchain Intel information, and then we'll
Sure.
funnel it to the law enforcement. And I work with a lot of different groups, or my company works with a lot of groups. I work with some of them, and it's always good because we're always catching up on, oh, did you hear about this or that? And
Yeah, if you create a Telegram group, I'll just deposit those in there. I have like I think, people have been sending me screenshots or sharing in the community,
yeah,
and it's happened quite often yesterday. So I'm not sure if it continued today. It might be because they use a private account, so there's no way I can actually search it.
right. Oh yeah, that's good. So yeah, I'll start. So would a Telegram group be easiest? Because
Yeah.
I can start that up, and then we can just help
Yeah,
that.
because we can just forward to that group.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay, so I'll start that and send that to you. Well, I'm glad we talked, because I think putting our heads together on this is really good, because it pains me to no end to think, there's so many people, including my father. My father was scammed pretty badly. I mean, he had his identity stolen, and he had to
Yeah.
deal with that kind of mess. So I hope that doesn't happen to anybody. So yeah,
So
whatever.
let's talk a little bit about the wallets. I'm kind of a little bit interested in it because I think like even like with Yale, there's a lot of like when you buy tickets like Coachella tickets or Burning Man tickets, a lot of people want money to be sent via Zelle because once the second user receives the money, there's usually no way to tell. And then the Wells Fargo and BofA, they don't really work with the consumer to actually identify the fraud, and sometimes they don't really care. So I just want to know, like, for the fake wallets, like how sophisticated is that, and what kind of wallets or companies do they usually ask? I mean, I heard about the Coinbase one where, people say that they're from Coinbase, but they're not. So people sent them money and they took it, right?
Yeah.
So that's one example. I mean, like how should we be careful about the fake wallet situation?
So yeah, so I mean that's one example where somebody's saying they're from Coinbase and they're not. Another one is actually even worse, where so I've been working on another case. It was another company. It was actually a legitimate wallet company, but somebody hacked into a piece of their code.
Oh wow.
So while they had set up all these protections and security for the wallet itself, the one piece of code that was attacked was taken from somebody else, and so that part was hacked into, and then that's how the private keys were stolen. So there are a number of ways that a wallet can be, dangerous. One
Mhm.
is just upfront, it's dangerous. The other is that it's hacked into in various ways, just like exchanges are hacked into. Um, so what I would say, and so by no means, this is professional advice. I mean, this is just something um, that I've heard is best practice. And that is, if you use an online wallet, right, that is, and you put a lot of money in that online wallet,
Mhm.
it is like putting all your eggs in one basket. And um, with cryptocurrency, you are your own bank, right? And so you have to watch that closely. So, I mean, there are a lot of things you could do. Um, one is don't use online wallets, because online wallets or hot wallets can be more easily broken into because it's software. So you could put a portion of your funds in cold storage, on a hard wallet,
Mhm.
like a Trezor or something like that, right? And that's one thing. The other thing is moving your funds periodically so
Mhm.
that it's not in one wallet all the time, but it's in a number of addresses. So it's hard for someone to keep track of you if they are, for example. Um, and don't keep anything on your computer, because there are a lot of people who will get on to your computer somehow, and then they'll find like a notepad or something where you stick your private keys, and then they'll just steal it from there. So um, there's a lot of different ways to manage your wallets, but I think the main message, or the thing that I try to do, is not put everything in one place,
Mhm.
um, and definitely don't put it all online, because um, software is always open to hacking into, or flaws and stuff like that. So you just want to move it around, or move it into places that might be more secure.
Sounds awesome. I think it's kind of important. I have a few friends who are SIM swap. So with AT&T and T and our mobile providers,
Yes.
which could be that could be compromised. Um,
Yes.
it's kind of important that we kind of know what we need to do. I mean, I literally sent I think my wallet, MEW, they wrote an article about what to do when you're SIM swap. I like share the article with a lot of people already, because most of the times it happens. How do we prevent ourselves from being SIM swap?
Yeah, that's a particularly nasty one, because, well, first of all, I just want to let you guys know there is a task force working on this,
Oh,
um,
cool.
and it's called React. But if you need any information or you want to hear more, just reach out to me, because I have a meeting with them coming up, and I'm helping someone else who was SimSwap too. And what I understand is that this is a gang, or there are gangs, multiple gangs, potentially, probably, that are hiring people, or paying people who work at these companies,
Mhm.
right,
Yep.
to do the swim swap, which is so terrible.
It's wrong.
Yes, it's so wrong. And um, and so this goes back. So how do you protect yourself from that? So it goes back to the, well, if you have um, wallets on your phone, switch them around, move the funds around, um, make sure that not all your funds are there all the time. So you could have like kind of how I would think of it as like a savings account. You have one place that is really secure, and that's where you put some portion of the money, and then some portion of the money if you're using it to do things with, right, to trade or to pay for things, then you put that in, a wallet online, so that whatever wallet is on your phone, it doesn't have a lot of funds. um, because if an employee is doing this, that's that's completely illegal.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk. I think you brought a like really good point, and I just wanted to bring it up because every time there's like a theft, a lot of times it's internal.
Yes.
So it's kind of important that, and I remember I was helping the information security team at PayPal with the information security exhibit, and to be PCI compliant, one of the item there, right, is really the people control or the control of people, right, and who have access to what. Because a lot of times when things get stolen, it could be an insider job, right? So we need to be kind of have some kind of procedure for the team who work with us as well to make sure that there is some kind of check and balances.
Yes, absolutely. The insider job thing is very common. There was one case um, where it was the man's roommate that stole his money, you know,
Wow.
and it was really sad because this man had actually taught his roommate all about how cryptocurrencies work, and then his roommate turned around and stole from him, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting what greed can do to people. I mean,
Yes.
it
And
is.
so you just have to be really careful, in your own home, hide everything, or put it in, um, some
Oh,
kind of,
safe deposit box or something.
yeah, it's a safety deposit box or something like that. Make sure you have backups, but only places that you know of. And, have different sort of mechanisms, like don't put the whole, um, you know, whether it's password or private key in the clear, right?
Yeah.
Have some mnemonic device, not mnemonic device, sorry, some ways of leaving out parts of it so that only you would be able to complete it. Or take the private key, cut in half, put them in two different places. Whatever it is that works for you, but definitely make
Yeah,
sure
I think
that,
especially founders of these crypto blockchain projects, right? I mean, if they
yeah.
have raised money, they probably have access to millions of funds, and they need to be especially careful um, of fraud.
Yes, you have to do special thought. And then, like you were saying before, there have to be audits in place. And so for
Mhm.
every company that say that you're putting your money into,
Mhm.
definitely ask what kind of audit process that they go through. How do they make sure that their funds are safe and that there's a process for ensuring that the funds continue to be safe?
So Karen, I know that you guys are helping people with like um, busting the bad guys. Do you also, after finding, like investigation and all that kind of stuff, do you actually help projects with like best practices afterwards, or like?
Yes, absolutely. So the software that we've developed not only helps to identify bad guys, but it also helps to um, be a way that good guys can continuously monitor
Mhm.
their transactions. So one of our customers is eToro X, and eToro X is the exchange
Mhm.
um, part of or affiliated to eToro.
Mhm.
And eToro X needed to show their regulators they had a handle on all the types of transactions going through them, including transactions that were coming from what is perceived as more private coins.
Mhm.
So if you've heard of Zcash and Monero, those are more privacy oriented coins. And Dash is another coin that gets lumped in there because Dash has a feature where you can essentially mix coins.
Mhm.
And so this company, eToro X, wanted to be able to have a handle on all the different transactions that went through, including the more private transactions. So that's what they use us for, is to constantly report, monitor, um, and what we are able to do for them and for anyone is to show a risk level associated with each address and the transactions associated with that address. So we basically say this wallet has a score of 10, which is really bad, meaning there are all sorts of warning flags and red flags associated with that address and transactions.
Mhm.
Or this address is associated with a well-known exchange that has strong um, anti-money laundering policies in place, or it's associated with an entity that has been just doing normal legal activities. Um, so yeah, so we have this risk scoring in place that helps people monitor and know um, if they're going to be in trouble with anybody, and what to do about it. We don't monitor individuals at all, so there's no privacy concerns. I mean, we're monitoring really the behavior um, of wallets so that
Mhm.
we can associate them with large entities, that may be bad or may be good.
Awesome. So how do we, besides monitoring, how do we ensure that we do not have impersonators out there who are imitating us, and make sure that we don't sign up for a fake wallet, or that we don't really get into one of these scams? Like, what could we do now that would protect us? I mean, besides redistributing our coins and putting in different places and diversifying them, I mean, is there, and I guess there's a we're gonna send you um things so that you can report it to the law enforcement. I mean, what else could we do so that we could be protected?
Right. Yeah. So I'm happy to um, share like a list of best practices
Mhm.
that you guys can do, things to put in place. I mean, the mindset is not different than from when you go outside, you don't have dollar bills kind of hanging off of you. um,
I have
you,
a laptop in a car,
yeah,
right?
put your laptop in, right. So yeah, it's a number of things you want to do to just make sure you prevent bad things from happening. And so those are the best practices. And then also have some kind of way of monitoring or identifying when something could be happening is important too. So that's where the monitoring comes in, because if you know that there's some suspicious activity, or that there's potential for danger, right, don't go there, right?
Yeah.
So um
And I think for AML, the standard is know or should have known. So you basically, if you know or should have known that a user or someone who is located somewhere, that's part of the sanction list, uh, or the deny people's list, uh, then you're pretty much responsible.
yeah, I mean, it's often sad because people find out after the fact that they did things that they shouldn't have done, for example, like giving control of your laptop to somebody else.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of, that's dangerous. Or
Yeah.
giving
I
them
mean,
access, or yeah, complete control in that sense.
right. I mean, it's
Um,
yeah, I mean, it's sad because people really take advantage of your trust. But yeah, those are things. So I mean, we will be publishing a report soon.
awesome.
Um, the types of things that we have seen, and know to be kind of scam type things to watch out for. And so hopefully, as you read through this and you just kind of do this on a monthly and a semi-annual basis, right, or even more, just keep checking in to what are the recent scams and then avoid them. um,
I,
and
I want I want to talk a little bit about some of the good things that you're seeing happening in the community. Because I think there's a stereotype that a lot of the cryptocurrency, facilitate money laundering, right? However, people forget that there are good aspects on decentralization, and besides the good guys, good things are happening in the blockchain space. Do you want to share a little bit about your
Yeah.
experience with that?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm so glad you asked me that, because this is exactly the reason why I started this company, is so that people would hear more about the good things that people are doing with the blockchain than the bad things, because it's actually very true in that there are more good things being done with the blockchain. Um, and those things include um, voting, being able to put energy transactions and information on the blockchain, healthcare, pharmaceuticals in terms of tracking drugs to make sure that they're real, legitimate drugs, not, tampered
Hmm.
drugs or fake drugs, which is really important, right? We all want to make sure that, everything that we're putting in our bodies is what we think we're putting in our bodies. So there are a lot of projects and a lot of companies in production in this area. Um, Another one is real estate. You know, I have a nonprofit called Blockchain by Women, and a couple weeks ago we had a woman talk about her company putting real estate referrals on the blockchain.
Oh,
And
awesome.
something, yeah, that everyone has to know about, because they're changing, meaning the real estate, organization, the U.S. National Real Estate Organization is changing all the rules around how they do real estate referrals, and they're all putting it on the blockchain. So, she's going to have a way. She does it. Not only she has a way. She has a product in production that shows how referrals are made, so that you can track them and give credit due to people who deserve that credit.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's, basically every facet of, if you think about, of our lives can be touched in some way by the blockchain. Not, of course, not every use case is for the blockchain, but real estate is a good one. I talked about real estate referrals. There's the ability to um, track human traffickers. um, and so if you look at some of the more philanthropic uses of blockchain technology now, because they're able to track, say, where food is going, they're able to track who gets, the food, the funds, make sure there isn't waste, make sure there isn't corruption, in people getting the the donations they're supposed to get, let's
Yeah,
say.
yeah, or knowing the source of where it comes from, I guess, is very.
Yes, and knowing the source of where that come from, knowing that it didn't come from, terrorists or something else. And so, uh, yeah, there are a lot of really good things. And I had also worked on a bunch of healthcare use cases,
Mhm.
um, and projects where what we were trying to do is make it easy for people to travel around the world and get access to um, their healthcare information.
Mhm.
And that's really important because, if you're traveling, say, to another part of the country or another part of the world, and you suddenly get sick and you're going to a hospital, that hospital needs to have your information. But if it's locked up, in a database where you're from, you know, time's ticking. You need a quick way of conveying to that hospital, your data. And I had a friend who has a certain kind of disease of the eye. It's like a chickenpox for the eye. And he first identified that, or the hospital first identified it when he was living in New York. But then he moved here to California, and that hospital shut down. And so he was in the hospital here a few years ago, literally doing test after test for almost a week. No, actually over a week. And he almost went blind in that time because they were trying to figure out the disease he had. And if he only had that information from that other hospital, right, that shut
Yeah.
down, he wouldn't have had to go through that process and suffer, the consequences of going partially blind in one eye. And so now he says to me, I just carry around a stack full of papers. So that any hospital I go to will know what disease I have, and I don't have to go through this process and, have my other eye go blind.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Um,
that
which,
that's extremely useful.
yeah. So being able to store this information in the blockchain and have it accessible to people who need to have access to it in a way that is secure or private is really important, um, and is transparent, unlike it was and unlike it has been for years.
Yeah. Um, I just really thought of something, and that something is synthetic identities.
Uh-huh. Yes.
I know that blockchain is really big on identity, and I think that, that synthetic identities will become really a big issue, especially with fraud and, because like nowadays with, like there's a lot of profiles on LinkedIn and Facebook, but you don't know which one is real and which one is not just on Telegram. And so with like people pretending or with fake identities, and it's so easy to imitate now, right? Because all they had to do is social engineer with, with a few of your friends, and you think that they're legitimate, and then you add them, right? And then they take all that information from you. Um, do you think that it's gonna get worse? Do you think that we're gonna get better, in terms of fighting that kind of information?
Yeah, I know that is really scary. I think there are ways that we there are things that we can do to protect ourselves from those synthetic identities, and I'm finding that um, there are actually quite a few services and open databases that you can use. Uh,
Mhm,
Now, again, you have to be careful here because people do have a right to privacy, and you
mhm.
don't want to be able to look up everything on everybody, which would be really bad. But there are some common things, like if you can search up somebody on Google and easily find them, then you know that they're real and not fake, obviously.
Mhm.
Uh, Simple things like being able to see them when you do a meeting. Uh,
Zoom is awesome, right?
yeah, you know, that's nice too, And, um, and so there are ways that we can be open and in touch, and I get that everyone's got a different tolerance level for how open they are,
Mhm,
um, and it can be scary to think, oh well, anyone could see me or look at me or find me. So there is a spectrum, right, of how open you want to be. But if there are quite a few services that um, where somebody, a company if they need it, right, to make sure that the person that they're dealing with is real. And it's unfortunately it is important to do that because there are a number of cases where people, like you said, they pretend not to be um, someone, and it becomes a really bad situation. Like I heard of this other case where a man married a woman, and he said he was someone, but he was not, and he asked her before they got married to give him essentially a lot of very personal information that then he was using you know to steal her identity or share, put her identity on the, I don't know, the black market or something. So
wow.
yeah, so you have to be really careful, and oftentimes it's just knowing these behaviors, and you know the behaviors that should warn you of bad things. Um, but yeah, certainly there are services out there too that can help you.
So Karen, just want to thank you for your time. I wanted to ask you, what is one advice that you wanted to provide to the community? I know that you went to Stanford, so the Bay Area is really close to home for you. What I mean, and the advice could be anything from entrepreneurship to being female to if that matters. To anything that you want. It could be related to blockchain or fraud. It's just really, what is that one piece of wisdom that you wanted to share with the community?
I would say believe in yourself. um, and believe that you can change the world. And maybe one small step at a time, but believe in that. And it's something that when I first went to Stanford, I had the feeling, because you're just surrounded by amazing people and amazing faculty, and it's just such a, it's a wonderful place, and it's a very special place. But you don't have to go to Stanford to have that feeling. And certainly even afterwards, after leaving Stanford, you should still have that feeling, and want to do good things, because I think if we all try that, um, we're all very pleasantly surprised. At least whenever I do that, I'm very surprised at the outcome.
And then, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Twitter. Um, I'm personally Karen Schumar, so Karen HSUMAR, at Karen HSUMAR. I'm also BlockchainIntel is at blockchain, and the last one, that last character is a 7. Um, you can also find us on our website, www.blockchainintel.com, and we're also on LinkedIn. So please reach out to any of those places. I'll start that Telegram group, so
Yay.
that, yeah, so that you can also reach us that way. And happy to talk to anyone about what you're thinking, and how we can help.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye.